Witnesses say the shooter, 34-year-old former Navy reservist Aaron Alexis, was aiming at helpless workers down on the first floor from a perch a few stories higher. And authorities say he did gain entry to the Navy Yard with a valid pass he had from his job as an hourly subcontractor. And his security clearance for that job was reportedly approved just this summer.
He also has a history, not only, that's a good point, as of course the mayor brought up, but you talk about this guy's background. As we look into it, he's got a friend who said, yeah, he had an obsession with video games, shooting video games. In fact, you know, he would come over and he'd be playing so long, these video games, these shooting games, we'd have to give him dinner. We'd feed him while he continued to stay on them. I believe there is warning on a lot of these games. Is it there for adult content only?
What about frequency testing? You know, how often has this game been played? Maybe there's some sort of, I mean, and I'm not one to say get in there and monitor everything, but if this indeed is a strong link, right, to mass killings, then why aren't we looking at frequency of purchases per person, and also how often they're playing and how many times? Maybe they time out after a certain hour.
You go to your room.
On this.
The next witness will be Mr. Frank Zappa.
The PMRC proposal is an ill-conceived piece of nonsense which fails to deliver any real benefits to children, infringes the civil liberties of people who are not children, and promises to keep the courts busy for years dealing with the interpretational and enforcemental problems inherent in the proposal's design. It is my understanding that, in law, First Amendment issues are decided with a preference for the least restrictive alternative. In this context, the PMRC demands are the equivalent of treating dandruff by decapitation.
A little bit later, Dr. Keith Abloh will talk about, is there a relationship between shooting video games and the way you act in real life?
Taken as a whole, the complete list of PMRC demands reads like an instruction manual for some sinister kind of toilet training program to housebreak all composers and performers because of the lyrics of a few. Ladies, how dare you? While the wife of the Secretary of Treasury recites, "Gonna drive my love inside you," and Senator Gore's wife talks about bondage and oral sex at gunpoint on the CBS Evening News, people in high places work on a tax bill that is so ridiculous, the only way to sneak it through is to keep the public's mind on something else. Porn rock. Is the basic issue morality? Is it mental health? Is it an issue at all? The PMRC has created a lot of confusion with improper comparisons between song lyrics, videos, record packaging, radio broadcasting, and live performances. These are all different mediums, and the people who work in them have a right to conduct their business without trade-restraining legislation whipped up like an instant pudding by the wives of Big Brother.
Well, and are more people susceptible? You know, are more people maybe more susceptible than others to playing video games? Is there a link between a certain age group or demo in 20 to 34-year-old men, perhaps, that are playing these video games, and then their violent actions? We have yet to find out.
The establishment of a rating system, voluntary or otherwise, opens the door to an endless parade of moral quality control programs based on things certain Christians don't like. What if the next bunch of Washington wives demands a large yellow J on all material written or performed by Jews in order to save helpless children from exposure to concealed Zionist doctrine?
You were talking about Elisabeth a second ago. What is it? Is this about gun control, or is this about a guy that has a history of drinking a lot, playing video games a lot, and a few shooting incidents?
Well, just, I mean, unfortunately, you know, it seems like every time something bad like this happens, we look at, is there a connection between video games and the shooter? Well, take a look at some people who were described as addicted to video games.
It is unfortunate that the PMRC would rather dispense governmentally sanitized heavy metal music than something more uplifting. Is this an indication of PMRC's personal taste, or just another manifestation of the low priority this administration has placed on education for the arts in America? The answer, of course, is neither. You can't distract people from thinking about an unfair tax by talking about music appreciation. For that, you need sex, and lots of it.
From Columbine High School, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the Virginia Tech shooter, the Arizona shooter, Jared Lee Lofner, that Norway shooter, Anders Bering, I think he shot 77 people, the Aurora shooter, James Holmes, the Sandy Hook shooter, Adam Lanza. They're all described as essentially being addicted to video games.
I think that this whole matter has gotten completely blown out of proportion, And I agree with Senator Exxon that there is a very dubious reason for having this event. And I also agree with Senator Exxon that you shouldn't be wasting time on stuff like this, because from the beginning I have sensed that it is somebody's hobby project.
Just look at the cover of the New York Daily News today. Same gun, different sleigh. Right. It shows this AR-15 right there. Dr. Keith Abloh, last time he was on the program talking about this, he said that these games, in many cases, need a warning, simply so people know that they can be addictive and psychologically damaging.
I'm a parent. I've got 4 children. 2 of them are here. I want them to grow up in a country where they can think what they want to think, be what they want to be, and not what somebody's wife or somebody in government makes them be. I don't want to have that, and I don't think you do either.
Okay, but now you're back on the...
All along, my objection has been with the tactics used by these people in order to achieve the goal. I just think that the tactics have been really bad, and the whole premise of their proposal, they were badly advised in terms of record business law, they were badly advised in terms of practicality, or they would have known that certain things don't work mechanically with what they suggested.
Well, it's all interesting stuff. Keep in mind, if there was an age cutoff, you know, as was suggested with Adam Lanza, you know, kids, this guy's 35 years old, 34 years old, so it wouldn't necessarily apply.
Bad facts make bad law, and people who write bad laws are, in my opinion, more dangerous than songwriters who celebrate sexuality.
That a schizophrenic personality, a psychotic personality, maybe this does light a fuse for those people. But what about the 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds who are playing it? Are they going to become violent just by playing Grand Auto Theft and Halo and these games?
Yes. In fact, if you can remember,
you think these kids are going to become violent?
Of course.
Really?
Think back when you were younger. You know, if you can think back that far, Bill. I can think back when I was...